Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Pádraíg Cóstélló. I'm 26. I live in Barcelona, but I'm from the west of Ireland, County Clare.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you again. How do you spell your name? Would you spell your name for our audience?
My name is an Irish spelling. First of all, it's pronounced Pádraíg, P-A, Fada, D-R-A-I-G. And you notice I said Fada after the first A. And a Fada is an accent in Irish, and it means long. So when you have an accent over a vowel in Irish, you elongate that vowel. So instead of Pádraig, it becomes Pádraig. And the Fada is the only accent in the Irish language. There's no other accent.
Cool. Thank you. We have lots of accents in the Polish language, and we have language students watching this video, so thank you for that little bit of information. Pádraig, do you speak Gaelic?
I can't claim that I speak Irish. And that's just a little point that it's widely known as Gaelic, all right, globally, but to Irish people, it's Irish. Gaelic would be not so used in Ireland to describe the language. In the Irish language, it would be called Gaeilge, and in English, it's just Irish. My father is pretty much fluent speaker, and are many of my students, my family. However, I unfortunately don't speak it fluently. I have a couple of fochel, which means a few words. I can understand this okay.
What do you do these days?
Right now, I'm a music teacher in Barcelona. I do private piano lessons, and I also teach in an international school as the music teacher.
Okay. Now, we met a couple years ago, and I remember hearing a few of your stories. You have been a barman or a bartender in both the United States and Ireland. Is that correct?
Indeed, yes. I was a bartender well, first of all, I was a bartender in a few different bars and pubs in Ireland. And then in 2016, I moved to Boston. And I was a bartender there for a good part of a year. And but I was also in an Irish bar in Boston. Big shock since it's Boston. And there's a huge number of Irish bars in Boston and in America in general, in the world in general, actually. In fact, I actually was a barman in Barcelona when I got here first. I worked also in an Irish bar in Barcelona. It's a very handy skill to have to travel with, because even though I didn't speak that much Spanish when I came to Barcelona, I was still given the job because I'm Irish, and they like to have actual Irish people behind an Irish bar. But yes, so I have actually been a barman in Ireland, America, and Spain.
Wow. So between Irish people and American patrons, who's easier to serve?
Probably Americans, I must say.
Why is that?
Well, you asked how easy they are to serve. Because in America, as a barman, there seems to be much more kind of, I don't want to say power, but the barman seems to have a bit more power in the bar than they do in Ireland. In Ireland, especially at nighttime, if you're working in a late bar, you're more likely to be getting people shouting at you for drinks, while in America, they're very, very, very polite, from my experience. And they tip you, and it's all like, if I decide that I don't want to serve someone, they're not going to kick up a fuss in America, you know? They're not going to, it's unlikely that they will. But in Ireland, you easily get someone shouting back into your face. But however, being a barman in Ireland was more enjoyable for me, because while people are more pleasant in America, from my experience, in Ireland, you can have what we call the crack with people, which is like a form of fun that Irish people have together. And conversations can be extremely interesting, funny, and lots of stories. And you meet a lot of characters in Irish pubs. So, who are easier to serve? I would say the American people because they're less contrary. But who do I prefer to serve? Well, just because I'm Irish, I like to work in Irish pubs because of the culture and the people are great in Ireland.
Fair enough. Now, have I ever told you that I'm Irish?
You may
Okay,
have, but I may have.
I have Irish ancestry.
Cool.
However, in the United States, I know that probably at least 1,000 times I've said I'm Irish.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you as an actual Irishman, how does that make you feel when you hear Americans refer to themselves as Irish?
It depends how it's said.
Okay.
I don't necessarily have a problem with it because I know that America is a land of immigrants and that there is there is obviously an American identity, but it's not your real native identity. Most white people and black people in America, anybody in America that is not Native American, Native Indian, came from somewhere else, came from Europe, came from Africa, came from Europe, came from wherever. And because of that, I can understand how people can search to find their roots and their heritage and their bloodline. And I understand that. And it doesn't really annoy me to hear it. It's more when people claim that they know what they're talking about when they talk about Ireland and their culture and our culture. And kind of try and I got this a lot in the bar when I was working there that, they would be telling me about certain elements of Irish culture and history. And I would just like, first of all, it's not true. And second of all, stop, please.
Okay. Do people mimic the Irish accent when they speak to you?
No.
No.
Certainly not in Barcelona. In America, I got it a few times, yes. But if it was a continuous thing, it would be annoying, but it's kind of just more amusing because it's an impossible accent to mimic. It's very difficult. And it's amusing. I think it's important to look at everything with humor and not to get too offended. Everybody gets so offended these days. So I do not hear it. I don't think I've ever heard it in Barcelona, but in America, I heard it a few times, yes.
During our conversations when we had our time together, it was really difficult. I had to suppress the urge to imitate your accent. So I don't know if you knew that. It's lovely. It's you should be flattered.
I understand.
The story of St. Patrick, is it special to you in any way? Is it, shall we say, a part of your identity as an Irishman, the story of St. Patrick?
I think, yes, it is. There's no way that it can't be because it is quite a thing that I learned in school. It's always been a element of my life every 17th of March. But I think it's important to know that St. Patrick's Day actually originated in America through the Irish, I suppose, expat groups and the diaspora. And so to me personally, St. Patrick doesn't hold much meaning because I'm particularly for me because like I'm from quite a cultural area. There's a lot of music, a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, very traditional area, and St. Patrick would have for me little or no gravity in terms of my culture. It's just kind of a story that I was told and this parade that happens every day. But at the same time, yes, it is certainly part of my life because it always has been there and I learned about it, and it has been a kind of international day of recognition of Irishness and what has happened to us in the last 200 years with the massive migration of Irish people around the world. So yes, I feel two ways about it.
Okay. We're gonna stray into politics for just a second, and I hope this doesn't take us way off track. Recently, the United Kingdom left the EU, and how did you feel about that? Were you in favor of them leaving, or were you hoping that they would remain?
Well, I feel that I like that in one way. I like that they have taken a stand and feel a certain way, and a majority vote is a majority vote, unfortunately, for the people that I know that live in Europe that are English. And I have a lot of English friends, and it is now becoming increasingly difficult for them to be in Europe, and they have lives set up here. So that obviously is a bad thing for some people, but at the same time, I can understand some people's position that they want to take back their sovereignty. Um, but in general, I think that the way they went about it was, I don't know,
Yeah.
very positive. But the biggest problem for me as an Irish person thinking about it is the border.
Yep.
Because we have 6 counties in Ireland. There are 32 counties in Ireland, and 6 of those up north still belong to the UK officially. Many people in Ireland would consider those 6 counties as part of Ireland, as part of the Republic, but unfortunately, technically, they are still part of the UK. And there used to be a hard border between those counties and the Republic of Ireland during the Troubles, as we call it, which was a long war between Irish Republicans, nationalists, and, well, the Loyalists, as we call them, are the British powers. And thankfully, there was a peace agreement made in the 90s, and the border was disintegrated, and there was free trade and free flow in between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. But now, with Brexit, there is big trouble for what's going to happen up there at the moment, and I think that a lot of people's lives are going to be changed drastically, and not for the best.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That was yeah, actually wide-ranging and a very well-balanced answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything special planned for St. Patrick's Day this year?
Well, since I'm in Barcelona, it's not such a big deal here. I'm so busy that I haven't really thought about it, but I suppose I will go, and I will go to some Irish pub here. There's a good number of Irish pubs in Barcelona. It's I think there's something like 15 or 16 Irish pubs here, which is a bit crazy. But I would probably go with some of my Irish friends, which I have a good number of Irish friends here at this stage. And I'll go and drink a few pints of Guinness, and I'll maybe sing a few songs and have a bit of crack, a bit of fun.
Fantastic. Is Guinness your favorite beer?
It's not. No, I do love Guinness. What is my favorite beer? Well, it's my favorite beer would be a beer very, very like Guinness, and Guinness is a stout. It's a type of drink. It's a black beer, and it's called a stout with a creamy head, and it's not carbonated. Like, it's not it doesn't have bubbles in it. They use nitrogen gas for it, and so it's a different texture. It's quite smooth, but the beer that's my favorite is also one of those. It's a stout, but it comes from County Cork, and it's called Beamish. It is also a black beer with a creamy head, but for me, it's just that little bit more bitter. It stays creamier as you drink it, and whereas Guinness can get a bit flat, quite quick, and it's to me, I don't know, I feel better as well after I drink Beamish for some reason. But yes, I do love a good pint of Guinness.
Okay. Do you drink whiskey?
Occasionally, yes.
And do you have a favorite whiskey?
I do, and I'm not much of a whiskey snob, and so I don't know a huge amount about whiskeys. But my favorite whiskeys would be Powers. Powers whiskey is a pretty normal whiskey. It's nothing special, but for me, I would prefer it over Jameson. I find Jameson has a bit of a kick You know, it's a bit harsh for me. While Powers I find a little bit more kind of round and sweet and easier to drink. And I also like the elitistness of it, if that's a word. I don't really like drinking whiskeys that are, you know, supposed to be the best in the world and you pay €20 for a shot. I don't like that kind of crack. I like a normal whiskey that tastes good.
Okay, what is something that the rest of the world might not know about St. Patrick's Day in Ireland? I know of St. Patrick's Day traditions in the United States. However, I don't actually, I mean, I've read a little bit. What is something the world does not know about St. Patrick's Day in Ireland?
Wow. Let's see. Well, we do the whole parade thing. And the one that you would see if you went online would be the big Dublin parade. It's huge. It's a big, huge celebration with big, massive floats and stuff. But if you go into rural Ireland, where I'm from, the parades they're quite nice because it's local people that will go into the parade. They'll dress up and they'll often make floats and costumes and kind of satirical, kind of humorous takes on current issues and stuff like that, you know, and also on local issues. So there will be a lot of local humor within the parades. So things that while you're watching the parade as a local, if you yourself were there, Matt, you may wonder like, why is this funny? But it's because it's in a local context, and that the people might find it quite funny. And one other thing I might say about this, and it's not just about Ireland, but in general, is, and it's curious to me, is St. Patrick's Day is famously led by the pipe band,
Okay.
the bagpipes out the front, wearing the
Right.
kilts, and this is a Scottish tradition. Irish people don't wear kilts. We don't play bagpipes. And this happens in Ireland all over the place. Our pipe band, we have a local pipe band, and I suppose technically it is part of Irish culture now because it's there so long, but the bagpipes are Scottish. The kilts are Scottish. And it's interesting. Now, there is a definite overlap of Scottish and Irish culture, of course. Our music is quite similar traditionally. But just on that, there is a form of Irish pipes, but they're not bagpipes, because bagpipes you blow with your mouth, but the traditional Irish set of pipes are called uilleann pipes, and uilleann in Irish means your elbow, and so instead you can't really stand up playing them. You have to sit down and you pump the air into the pipes with your elbow. And it's a much different sound. It's kind of sweeter. It's not half as loud. Personally, I much prefer them. So yeah, I've always found that a curious kind of element of St. Patrick's Day, that we have Scottish bagpipes leading us around the place. It's funny.
It would probably be quite difficult to walk in a parade playing Irish pipes.
Oh yeah, impossible. Unless you're up on the back of a trailer or something.
Okay. Just a couple more questions. Do you know what an Irish car bomb is?
I do. Indeed, yes.
Is the name offensive?
To me personally, no, because I have not been affected by anything like that. Thank God. I'm from the south of Ireland, but and to give your listeners some context, going back to the northern part of the country that I talked about earlier, there was a big war, and it was a guerrilla war. It wasn't a direct army war; it was a guerrilla war, and a big part of that of warfare up there were car bombs. People would get blown up by car bombs, and this happened in England. This happened in Ireland, and so for people that were affected by that, yes, you can imagine how it would be quite insensitive. And like, for example, our pub in Boston didn't actually serve Irish car bombs. We wouldn't do them. Also because it's just disrespectful to Guinness and the whiskey to throw a shot into a pint of. It's very traditional to drink a pint of Guinness and have a chaser with it, like a shot of whiskey. You'd see a lot of old men, especially around my area, doing that. But to mix the two in together, it's a bit ridiculous. And then to down it, it's a bit crazy. Hence, I suppose the name. But I have said maybe it doesn't give the same gravity. But I've said to a few people that have asked me, I'm like, well, what if I made a drink and I called it a 9/11? You know.
Yeah.
So
No, that's at home. Now bring it right around. Okay. Good. Have you ever kissed the Blarney Stone?
I have not. No. And yeah, I have friends from that area, and I hear that I hear stories that the locals maybe don't do very nice things to that stone. So yeah, so I haven't kissed the Blarney Stone, especially with coronavirus around these days. I don't think I'll be kissing it anytime soon. But I've never actually been to the Blarney Stone, so yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I should go and see it at some stage.
It's not even a question. Using only adjectives, describe Irish people.
Irish people are open, kind, welcoming, good fun, humorous, satirical in a lot of ways. Our humor can be quite dry as well. But also we have a reserved side of us, resulting from many years of Catholic rule and English rule, but generally good-willed and positive people, I think.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to say about being Irish or Ireland? This is your last.
What do I need to say about being Irish? I suppose the main thing is I really love being Irish. I love my country. I love its people. I love its culture. I love the landscape. Believe it or not, I even love the weather, even though it rains 360 days a year. And yes, there's always a feeling when I go home that like it's so homely, and when you meet people that you haven't met in a long time, that you'll always have a good conversation, and they're interested in, especially where I'm from is quite a small place. So this is something I love about Ireland, and especially rural Ireland, because I've been living in cities a while now, and sometimes it can be a bit cold and isolating. And when you go back to rural Ireland, and even in the city, like people just seem to be very talkative and open, and yes, that's
Warm.
Yeah. People are warm in Ireland. Most people anyway. Obviously, everyone's different, but it's well known that the Irish hospitality is quite good, and also food. I love Irish food, even though it's not top cuisine or anything, but there's something very hearty and warming about Irish food, like lots of stews and nice potatoes and bacon and cabbage, things like that. Cups of tea, black tea with milk, and homemade brown bread, those kind of things. I go on forever talking about it. I'm actually kind of hungry now, thinking about that.
You miss it.
Yes, in ways, yes.
Okay. Well, that's about everything. Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate everything that you said, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for the call. I hope this goes well for you, and that people enjoy this interview and have learned something.